Okay, so let's go ahead and start with social institutions, which is chapter 10 in the real world. So what is a social institution? It is essentially systems and structures that shape the activities of groups and individuals in society. And so the three major social institutions that the chapter discusses and that we're going to discuss in this video are politics, education, and religion. These are not necessarily institutions that you can go visit, right? Yes, you can go to a state house. Yes, you can walk into a church and a school, but the institutions themselves aren't necessarily tangible. They're these systems, right? So we're going to go through each of them today. So politics, this is methods and tactics of managing a nation or state, right? Everything that goes into keeping a nation together politically, through the government, the creation and enforcement of laws. I'm having a hard time with this one, I guess, today because we've done just such a bang-up job with our politics because I know everyone's talking about how we probably shouldn't be discussing politics when it comes to what's currently happening in our country and all over the world. But our politics are the groups of individuals that manage things like a pandemic. And not everybody's getting access to testing kits, and it has everything to do with politics than anything else. And so, yeah, we should be coming together as a community, but the best way is for our government to, get together and move forward and try and manage the nation that we have here. And so, it's a part of our everyday life, even when we want to pretend like it's not and say things like, oh, I don't really pay attention to politics. Well, you should, because politics are how we keep our system moving. And as you're all experiencing a new form of our system, recognize how impactful politics are to that system. Now, politics, whether or not our politicians have power or authority, right? And so power is their ability to impose one's will onto another person, right? So like a mugger might have power over you, but the mugger doesn't necessarily have authority, the non-coercive, legitimate exercise of power. However, police officers have both power and authority. Our government has power and authority. Our legislators have power and authority. They are imposing their will on us, and more often than not, they're doing it through non-coercive measures, but not every aspect of our politics uses non-coercive measures, so just keep that in mind. So I'm going to only for this video focus on our political system. The lecture slides you get for the whole class will have more. But, we're in a democracy, right? So it's a political system in which all citizens have the right to participate. So you have the right to vote in this country. Not everyone has the right to vote. Not everyone. And I know a lot of you are probably thinking about prisoners, but also what age in which do you have to be to vote? Yet I know a lot of 16 and 17-year-olds were behind the March for Our Lives, and they did not have the ability to vote. So who all actually has the right to participate in our democracy? It's just something to think about. And we're technically in an election year. We're in an election year with all this other crazy stuff going on. So, I don't know, maybe apply for an absentee ballot. I don't know. That might be helpful. So, who rules America? We have these two different ideas, pluralism versus the power elite. And pluralism is this idea that there's a system of political power where a wide variety of individuals and groups have equal access to resources and power. And this is what our document says, right? We all have the ability to lobby our government. We can vote people in and out if we want to. But C. Wright Mills, the guy that we got the sociological imagination from, he came up with this idea of the power elite. And he said, actually, it's just this really small number of individuals who control the economic, political, and military situations, right? And usually in a classroom, I'd ask you all to sort of dig into these ideas. Is it pluralism or is it the power elite? But I can't, so I'm just going to give you the answer. We have something called special interest groups in this country where it really does sort of solidify C. Wright Mills's idea of the power elite, because a small number of people who control a lot of the money are the ones that are controlling a vast majority of our politics. Here's some numbers for you. The top 10 spenders between 1998 and 2017. These are the top lobbying groups and how much money they spend in the United States. Now down here at the bottom, you can see healthcare either takes up, one number or the other number, and it has everything to do with whether or not you consider the AARP to be a healthcare lobbying group. Depending on who you talk to, sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. So those are those 2 number breakdowns. But our healthcare dollars take up a lot of these special interest groups. And so are we, the people, the ones deciding what's going on, or are those dollars from those special interest groups actually really the ones sort of pushing forward our political system and making the decisions for us instead of us making the decisions? So vote, lobby your government, pay attention to where your money's going. These are the things that we can do to sort of fight back against these interest groups. So let's move into education, right? So it's a process by which a society transmits knowledge, values, and expectations to its members of society so that we can all function as a group. Now, I have this wonderful meme up here that I thoroughly enjoy as what I learned from school is number 1, I'm a fucking piece of shit. Number 2, everybody else is also a fucking piece of shit. And then number 3, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. This is a meme that's gone around for a really long time. But what's really great is the English majors probably know this is mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell is technically the way that should be written. But we all as a group on the internet have decided that sentence, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, is the thing that we all remember from school. So yeah, education not only transmits knowledge, whether correctly or incorrectly, and some of you argue that you wish you had learned other things in school instead of algebra or read Faulkner or whatever you thought maybe being able to balance a checkbook might be a good idea, but the education system is there to transmit this knowledge, value, and expectations. And the values come a lot from things like capitalism, right? We've talked about this before, but it's that hidden curriculum. So when it comes to transmitting these values, the educational system can reproduce inequality really severely. So 2 ways in which it can do it is tracking and the hidden curriculum. So tracking is when schools start sort of coding you as either college prep or tech prep early on in school. And when I say early on in school, I mean like your first year of school, whether that's kindergarten or first grade. So this is normally when I tell you my story. I was tracked early on in school, and I was technical tracked, right? So they didn't put me in the correct math in high school to be able to go to college. And so I had to spend an entire summer taking geometry, I believe, geometry and trigonometry, in summer school so that I had enough math credits to go to college. And now I have a PhD. So I guess fuck you to those teachers that tracked me technical school instead of academic. But yeah, so tracking is a major point of our education system. And a lot of times tracking comes from things that have nothing to do with who you are as a student and everything to do with who you are in your situation in the world. And so if you think about all the other topics we've gone over since the midterms, social class, gender, and race, you can probably come up with who gets tracked for college and who gets tracked for technical school. And I think my social class probably had a lot to do with it. As to why I got tracked technical school instead of college prep. But I don't know, a lot of students of color get tracked technical instead of college. Interestingly enough, boys are getting tracked technical over college. At this point, we're seeing that flip in the education system because we put so much effort behind lifting girls up that we forgot to also maintain lifting the boys up too. And then the hidden curriculum, we have talked about this before in class, but it's basically all those things that you learn that aren't reading, writing, and arithmetic, to prepare you for the world at large. And we really discussed in those first couple of classes how it teaches you how to be a good employee, right? It teaches you punctuality, and it teaches you how to be competitive in the workforce, right? All of these things that make you a good worker. But think about all the other things that are in the hidden curriculum that they're teaching you. And so if you come from a failing school and your teachers are burnt out and nobody trusts you, and so you have to walk through metal detectors all day, every day. What might that be teaching you? If you go to a school where it's a completely open curriculum, like a creative Montessori, what is that teaching you that public school is not teaching you? What aspects of the hidden curriculum are not just can you make a good capitalist, but also do you feel safe in your ability to question power? Do you feel like you can go anywhere in this world, right? And so you'll have access to these slides, but what I want you to look at for the hidden curriculum is this first video, The Disparities in Chicago Schools. It shows two very different schools. This was from when Oprah still had a TV show, so it's a little older, so just, accept the wonderfulness of the early 2000s. And then the other link here is school data for civil rights, and so you can look at the race and maybe not the socioeconomic status, I think just the race makeup, and see exactly who gets punished percentage-wise in all schools, all public schools across the state, across the country. And I think this direct link takes you maybe to the Vestavia or Spain Park high schools here, and then you can click through it as you choose. So religion includes any institutionalized system of shared beliefs or rituals. And we've gone over what beliefs and rituals before, and so beliefs are just those ideas held in faith, and rituals are the practices, right? So is it sacred or profane? Going to church is a ritual. You can kind of come up with your own examples here. But the main thing that I want you to get through with this is the sociological approach to religion is not evaluating the truth of the religion. However, what we do want to look at is how religion is shaped by cultural institutions and shapes cultural institutions, right? Religion influences many aspects of our lives, and we thus in turn influence religion as well. So here's my fun little question for you. Religiosity is this regular practice of religious beliefs measured by church attendance, where spirituality is this meaning in life, right? And so we've done some interesting research here to see which one is actually better for your health. Religiosity, you're just showing up to church, or spirituality, your belief in the meaning of your existence. And honestly, it's religiosity, and it's because when you show up to church, you're showing up to a community, and you have a bunch of other people showing up with you as well. And so, when the older widower stops showing up, people get concerned and they check on them and make sure that they're okay. And that's how it's better for your health. There's many other reasons as well, but that's that. So I do want to go into a little more detail for that article that you had to read by Wong 2015. It's called The Sesame Street Effect. And so it fostered cultural and intellectual development of preschoolers, and it tried to reduce educational deficits due to differences in environment. So a lot of the students who didn't have access to pre-K, we still kind of have something called the Head Start program. It costs about $7,000 per child per year. Sesame Street costs a whole $5 per child per year. And Sesame Street really did not only uplift the educational attainment of those that were left behind economically, but it also made those that had everything realize how important diversity was and not to be judgmental. So I have a couple of examples for you. We have Zari over here. She is the first Afghan female Muppet who goes to school. And then we have Carly over here. Carly is the first Muppet to experience her parents having addiction disorders. Alex, his parents, his dad is incarcerated, and so the students learn what incarcerated means. Julia has autism, and if you see right here, a little YouTube link comes up. If you click that, you can watch one of the scenes with Julia to see how they teach autism to Big Bird. And then Cammie over here is HIV positive, and is a part of the South African Muppets. And so they teach a lot of really amazing diversity, and it allows people who don't experience those things to sort of understand what it's like and really teach compassion for diversity. And then the last thing I want to talk to you about is the funding for PBS. You can click on this link, Mr. Rogers Goes to Washington, to see how our politics do not want to fund this aspect that is really helpful to the education of our students and our children across the world. But the biggest thing I want you to take away from what Mr. Rogers says is that he loves everyone just the way that they are. And I think that we forget that a lot of times. And so I want you all to know that regardless of the grade you make in this class, that I love each and every one of you just the way that you are. And you should probably tell other people that too.